Welcome back to the show as we look ahead to Chinese President Xi Jinping's important visit to the United States next week. Former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger played a major role in opening relations between China and the United States in the 1970s. The former diplomat, who's traveled to China more than 50 times, sat down with me recently in New York and shared his thoughts about President Xi's visit. Dr. Kissinger, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure to be here.
The Chinese President Xi Jinping will be coming to the United States. It will be his first official visit to this country. Already U.S. officials are saying that they hope this will be a milestone in the relationship between these two countries. How do you see this visit?
The visit of President Xi can be of great importance. And I agree with the word milestone, because we are in a situation now where originally the relation between the United States and China concerned a common adversary. Now we are in a situation where the world economy and world peace depends on our cooperation. And so it is very important that the Chinese president and the American president meet periodically to exchange ideas and to achieve parallel policies when that is at all possible.
Given those problems that you mentioned, we have sectarian differences in the world right now, we have wars, we have religious upheavals, we have terrorism. Does the United States and China need each other more now?
Yes, we are at a moment when there's worldwide violence and there are upheavals in many parts of the world, and the economies of various parts of the world are closely related. But the joint economy of China and the United States probably represent close to half of the entire world economy. So we need each other, and we need to develop concepts and policies by which we can proceed on parallel roads.
You have been a student of U.S.-China relations for decades. You've written widely about this relationship. You have witnessed how these two countries have changed, how the relationship has evolved over the years. How would you characterize or describe the current relationship between the U.S. and China?
Well, there have been many periods in this relationship, but I would describe the current relationship as broader-based and more intense in terms of the actual consultations that are going on than at any previous period. And even in the previous periods, there was constant progress. But I would say at this moment, we are interacting more than we have ever before. And some of it is new, so some of it leads to public disagreements. But one should look not at the day-to-day statements, but at the long-term trend. And the long-term trend, I think, is positive.
One of those public disagreements has been over Chinese territorial claims in the South China Sea. Do you think that is an issue that's going to be addressed when President Xi comes to Washington? And is there a diplomatic solution to it?
Well, I don't think in the limited time available for a state visit that you can solve a problem that has centuries long origin. But you can have a discussion of the road in which the solutions should be found. And I believe one could separate the various issues, such as freedom of navigation, sovereignty, and deal with them autonomously. And the first decision has to be, and I think is, that this is not a subject on which countries will go to war with each other. So a negotiation has to be successful, and I believe if we proceed on a case-by-case basis, the situation will greatly improve.
President Xi will also be addressing the 70th General Assembly at the United Nations. What do you expect to come out of that speech?
The General Assembly is, I can tell you from personal experience, is a tough audience to address because these are professional diplomats and they're sitting there and the speaker has spent a lot of time preparing his remarks and the audience is usually totally impassive, so that the television pictures don't always bear a relationship to the substance. But I would think that President Xi will give to the UN a statement of Chinese views of the evolution of the international system. And I would not be surprised if he talked about some of his version of the Chinese dream, some of these ideas of how nations that in the past have been adversaries can work together for common objectives. That has been the theme of his speeches. And I would think that at the UN, it will be a statement of China's overall approach to international relations.
We are, of course, in election season right now in the United States. There will be a presidential election next year. We are already hearing some anti-Chinese rhetoric coming from Republican candidates in this election. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, there have even been suggestions that President Obama should cancel the visit of President Xi.
Well, I've read some of these comments. Of course, I generally support the Republican Party, but I don't agree with the statements of some of the candidates. But I try to look at it in some perspective. There have been, I think, 6 or 7 elections since the opening to China. And it occasionally happens in these elections that anti-Chinese statements are made. But the significant thing to remember is that there has really been the most continuous foreign policy of America has been the relationship with China. Every new president, no matter what he said in the campaign, has been brought by reality to the recognition that you have, that this relationship is an integral part of the international system. And I believe that this will, I'm confident that this will happen again. And I would just urge you listeners or viewers to not take every word that is said in the campaign as a final statement.